Hello, everybody. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Show. And as you can hopefully see by the banner down the bottom there, a little bit of a different style video today. Sheffield Wednesday 12-point deduction, reacting to your comments. So basically, as soon as the news came out about the Sheffield Wednesday points deduction, how many points it was going to be, when they were going to be deducted from, that being a particular issue. I got straight on and I put a video up, my normal my reaction video, and we have, as you'd imagine with such an issue, had many comments. Let me just flash this up. I just took that before we came on, so 416 comments there, 11,500 views, 325 thumbs up and 5 thumbs down. So look, the beauty of YouTube over traditional TV is that people can have their say with other people who have watched on what they've seen. That's great. Do we manage to do it well a lot of the time? No, we don't. A lot of people are rude. A lot of people are blunt. A lot of people are overly emotional. And I bang the drum about that a lot, and I will continue to do so. But I believe wholeheartedly in free speech and in debate, as long as it's done in a civil way. So I think the comments are a really good thing, and I'll never close the comments. I'd rather not make videos than close the comments. But I had a couple of interesting ones, as happens every day. Woke up in the morning, pick up my phone, see what's going on in the world, and of course there's 50 YouTube comments. Two of them in particular intrigued me, and then I went through and started reading the comments. And one of them said, we don't need any barrack room lawyers, which I had to Google, which means apparently someone who gives an opinion on something they're not qualified to talk about. Well, frankly, that person can get in the bin, because like I say, fortunately, all of us live in a country where free speech is okay. And if you want to shut down anyone's opinion based on their qualifications to speak about something, then I find your views a little bit worrying and a little bit old-fashioned. Yes, certain people are more qualified, but judge the person's ideas rather than who the person is what I would say. Another comment got my attention, though. It said, the title of this video is my reaction, but you didn't react. You just stated the facts. And I read that, and I go through these phases with comments. I read it, and I was a little bit grumpy at first. And then I was like, well, is that a bad thing? I just stated the facts. Did I dodge actually giving my opinion? Is that necessarily a bad thing? Allow the comments to do it? No, I probably could have said more. And then about 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh, maybe that person's actually right. Maybe I can learn something from that comment. So what I've done is I've reread all of your comments and had a good scroll down just to get to the kind of not to the bottom, because you're never going to get to the bottom of this FFP issue and a points deduction, but to kind of see what the prevailing mood is and present some arguments, maybe for and against what people in general are saying. So let's have a little look at it. And the first observation I would make on Sheffield Wednesday's points deduction and the reaction to my video on it is, there are, and this is not everyone, there are quite a number of people that just want to see Sheffield Wednesday get relegated. That is obvious. And I'm not saying that's right, wrong. I'm not accusing anybody or everybody who've commented of doing that. But let's not lie. There are a clear number of people there. And look, we all have this human nature thing. Everyone stares at a traffic accident when they go by, and you know, everyone likes a bit of chaos and a bit of drama, so long as it's not involving them. You know, everyone, if you hear the neighbours yelling, you go and have a listen, don't you? So the first thing I noticed is there were a great number of the comments that didn't offer anything other than just a bit of football banter and, you know, going down whatever. But I think in a serious debate, if your criteria for, you know, a ruling or a law being passed on football is predicated on a team you either don't like or you think it would be funny to see them being relegated, I don't really think that's a serious part of the debate, isn't it? So there we go. The next thing I saw and I'm scribbling down here. I just wrote my notes as I was going along here. I saw a lot of comparisons with Wigan, which I don't believe are relevant in this case, I have to say. First of all, I believe that there shouldn't be a competitive imbalance in spending in the league. And I believe that FFP, if it's done right, can be helpful. And, my opinions on parachute payments and, the competitive imbalance that I think that brings. So that's one belief there on FFP. My other belief is that I feel very sorry for Wigan fans, Wigan players, that their owners have thrown them into administration. Whatever you think of the two things, they're not really that comparable because it's very, very clearly set out, and we have some precedent for this in the past, that you will be deducted 12 points. That's very clear, and you will be deducted them either during the season of the infraction, if you were going to actually finish above the relegation zone, or they'll be passed on to the next season if you were naturally going to be relegated, just to stop people getting relegated and then putting themselves into administration and essentially punishing the creditors. That's not what we're going to have done. I'm not saying that for 1 second. But whether you agree on either side with, administration deductions and when they should be, or what's happening with FFP, what I was finding was the comparisons. It's not an irrelevant comparison. Of course, there is some, it belongs in somehow the same sphere of conversation, but it's certainly an apples and oranges comparison, bearing in mind that we have a precedent for administration, we have a ruling in place with a number of points and a time frame on that side of it. Whereas on the FFP side, well, what we've got. We've got one case that we can look at now, two with Sheffield Wednesday's one done. But I just found that a lot of people, again, and look, football's emotional, and I get it, but I try and do facts over feelings here. And there are obviously a lot of people who are emotional about Wigan, and they feel badly, and I feel badly, but never let your emotions override your reasoning. And just because you feel badly for Wigan doesn't mean that you can compare the Sheffield Wednesday case, if you know what I mean. So hopefully I've made that very, very clear. I'll repeat, I feel sorry for Wigan, and whatever you think about administration, fine. What I'm arguing here is that it's an apples and oranges comparison, and why would it be the same? They're two completely different infractions. One is for administration and one is for FFP. They're similar, they involve the same league, but ultimately they're different. Did I deal with that? The other thing people were mentioning was the length of time that it takes the EFL. Now, I've had a little look here. So the two cases we've got now, Birmingham, in between punishment was 7 months and 8 days. Sheffield Wednesday in between being charged and found guilty and punishment, etc., 8 months and 17 days. So, two issues here. If your argument is it takes too long, I probably agree with you. Yeah, I probably agree that 8 months is too long. But, and this is going to be a theme of this video, you have to draw a line in the sand at some point. There has to be, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever, there has to be an amount of time that's set. It looks like it's around 7 to 8 months. I'm sure that will become clearer further down the line when we get more FFP cases, which nobody wants, by the way, but we'll probably get. So what I will say is I think it's too long, but it's not inconsistent. So if Birmingham's had been 7 months, 8 days, and Sheffield Wednesday's was 3 months, then, yeah, you've got a big flag for inconsistency. It's like, oh, Birmingham, was twice as long as Sheffield Wednesday's, or if this one went even longer. So I think my position on that is it's too long, which a lot of the comments said, but it is consistent with what happened with Birmingham. And, excuse me, I think it sets a precedent now. I think all FFP cases are going to, are going to have to be investigated over 7 to 8 months. So that would be my view on all of those comments that came in. The next one was that about the points deduction. To be fair, in the comments, I didn't get many on this, but I got some. The actual number of points does seem to be A, consistent with Birmingham's, and B, have some traceable way of working out. Type Kieran Maguire, he's been on the channel a few times, type him on Twitter, and he does break down that they've done what they said they'd do, and it aligns with what happened with Birmingham. So I think I'm okay with the points deduction. Now, the biggest issue was, should the deduction be this season or next? Let's get into that now. But what I'll quickly say is I seem to be standing up for the EFL a little bit, which is a strange position to be in. I think they're in a bit of a no-win situation here, because whatever they do, they're going to get criticised. We know that. It's a bit like being a YouTuber. Whatever you do, you're going to get some criticism. But I do think there is some consistency in the points, the amounts, and in the length of time it took. And I don't think it's fair to have a pop at them comparing it with Wigan. What I will say is, and a lot of comments said, oh, the EFL are not fit for purpose, or the EFL are a waste of space, or whatever it is. And that's a nice little soundbite. What I would implore people to do is to tell me why. And I'm not saying you're wrong. You might be right. The EFL might not be fit for purpose, and that might be proven over many more years to come. And, I'll agree with you if you're right, but just tell me why. I think that's important. If I'm going to accuse somebody of something, I need to have some reasoning other than I'm emotional about, a team either not going down or going down, which seems to be the issue here. And that's one point I'd like to raise right now is, if Sheffield Wednesday had 10 more points and this wouldn't have resulted in a relegation this season, I don't think anyone would be too bothered about this. It's really the relegation issue, the fact that the 12 points off would have relegated them, that makes a big difference. Anyway, I was just getting onto the real salient point here, which is, should the deduction be this season or next? Now, this is draw a line in the sand moment, isn't it? This is when you go to the bank and they decide what overdraft you're allowed. They have an idea of how they're going to calculate what your overdraft is, and then they're going to come and give you a number. Yeah, and you can either agree or disagree with that number, but at some point, someone has to come up with the number. And I think we're at this issue now. This is the second FFP guilty charge, and I think that it's draw a line in the sand moment, set the precedent. There is no precedent set before this, so it is perfectly fair and reasonable for people to debate either way, either that it should be this season or it should be next season. And let's just get that out of the way. If you're going to comment on this video, it is not unreasonable for somebody to argue next season. It's not unreasonable for someone to argue this season, because there is nothing that says either is unreasonable. So please don't state your opinion as a matter of fact in the comments. Just give your view. Neither is unreasonable. What I will do is I'll come up with some of the arguments I've heard either way, and you can make your view on how the EFL draw their line in the sand going forward, in terms of, is there going to be a ruling on exactly when these cases that are all incredibly unique, by the way, and that's even another case. Can you even come up for something that's where all of the different infractions are going to be so unique? Is it right even to come up with a hard and fast? I know us consumers as football fans, we like hard and fast rules because they're much easier to understand. And when we don't have one, it's much harder for us to understand. But to my overarching point there, we don't have a precedent, so nobody is wrong here. So please don't start yelling at somebody if they think next season, or yelling at somebody if they think this season. Nobody's right or wrong, and that's the real truth of this debate here. So the arguments I've heard for this season is that the season is still going. And that is also an argument that I've heard for it going in next season. So the argument being, oh, well, the season is still live, in that there is one game to go, the playoff final. And that's why it should be meted out this season. I'm not saying that's my argument. I'm saying that's an argument I've heard. Another argument I've heard is Wigan got their deduction this season. I don't like that argument. As I've said previously in the video, that's an apples and oranges comparison. I don't think it's relevant in this case. Some people have argued the punishment should apply immediately. Now, I can't argue against that. It is what it is. If you think it should apply immediately, remember, we're talking about numbers that apply to 3 years ago. And a 3 year, well, what was it? 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, those 3 years of books. Yeah, you could argue that you set a precedent and you say that as soon as the charge is done, the points deduction is immediate, effective of that day. You'd have to figure out actually when does the season end, because it's very, very interesting. I think I think there is a definition on this one because the Premier League and the EFL are different on this, and I don't know which way round, but one of them is the season ends when the last game is played, and I think the other one is the season ends when we say it ends. They're different, Premier League and EFL on that. I'll check that out, in fact. But so yeah, I can't argue against punishment should apply immediately, but if that is the precedent, then that needs to be written down, and then if it's the case, then no one can argue about it. And I hate to say it, the biggest argument I saw about punishment this season is I'd like to see Sheffield Wednesday relegated, and that was genuine. Either people having banter, people point scoring, people who don't like Sheffield Wednesday, or like I said earlier in the video, people who just want to see a bit of drama and a bit of chaos, but not if it involves their club, only if it involves somebody else's. So those were the arguments for this season that I heard. If you've got a better one, please present it in the comments. Be civil. Arguments I heard for next season obviously were mainly from Sheffield Wednesday fans, which is fine. So they argued that the season was over, and in the other way around, we had arguments that the season was still going. So they argued that, well, first of all, we're in the playoffs, and that's a post-season competition. And the actual season that Sheffield Wednesday played in finished on July the 22nd or whatever it was. So again, you can argue it both ways, and it's not unreasonable to argue about it both ways. What was quite a compelling argument, however, was that given that Birmingham got 7 months, and that if Sheffield Wednesday had also got 7 months from the charge, that if there wasn't any COVID-19, the season would definitely have been finished. We'd be way into close season. And I think what everybody would agree with is that we're right on the edge here, aren't we? Where, you can argue either it has or it hasn't finished. Whereas if you're in June, I think it was supposed to be in June was the plan. If you're in June and the season finishes in May, say May the 5th or whatever it is, then that wouldn't be fair, would it? That's a retroactive relegation. Well, you might think that is fair. I don't know. Let me know. You can see how over the top with this is. So yeah, COVID skews the dates was a quite popular argument from the Sheffield Wednesday fans, and not unreasonable, I would say. And then I guess the counter argument's going to be, well, COVID skewed the dates for Tranmere, who were relegated on points per game, and that other people have been punished by COVID. No one else has been punished by a combination of COVID and FFP, though. So that would seem to be 2 slices of bad luck in terms of timing. And I'm not saying you're unlucky to be charged by FFP before I get that in the comments. The other argument was that there would be no chance to react, and that in Birmingham's issue, they were charged before. They had the points deduction during the last international break on the 22nd of March. So March, April, May. They had about 6 or 7 weeks knowing about the deduction, and they could have played knowing what their fate would be given the deduction. Again, I know I'll get arguments saying, well, does that matter? Keep your books in order and or play well and score more points. I know I'll get those arguments, and to be honest, they're not unreasonable arguments there. But I think in terms of consistency, if Birmingham got a chance to know what their fate was with a load of games, then people would have argued inconsistency the other way round. So look, hopefully everyone can see that this is utterly not a black and white issue. This is not, has the ball crossed the line or not, where it's very, very easy and there's not actually that much debate. There's so many moving parts here. Mostly that there's only ever been one FFP case, and that's the small, tiny sample size we've got to go on. Secondly, COVID is absolutely messing with all our timelines and our dates in terms of that season finish. And that date issue is just a really huge one, isn't it? Because if it had been meted out in March, like I said, then you've got a chance to react if you believe that that is the case. So look, we're debating a new crime. As I said, let's try not to be pompous about this. We're giving our opinions here, frankly, on something that's not black and white. So please be receptive of others' opinions, because it isn't unreasonable. I think we're only debating, really, whether the punishment is this season or whether it's next season. I think the timeline, well, that matches up with Birmingham, if that's our case study. The points, that seems to be fairly clear and okay, far be it for me to defend the EFL. What I would add as well is this is an EFL disciplinary commission decision, not a Sheffield Wednesday decision. I know Sheffield Wednesday may have broken a rule. And by the way, I've seen lots of use of the word cheating. Depends how literally we want to take that word. Is anybody that breaks the rule cheating? Arguably. If you weren't overly clear on what the rule was, then is ignorance a defence? And if you make a mistake and you're not willfully cheating, they didn't get the in bad faith charge. That got taken away. So the EFL are essentially arguing that they made a mistake rather than they cheated. Again, that's open to debate, isn't it? But so what I'm saying in terms of the line over the sand is it's a bit like arguing. I use the analogy of the overdraft limit. Or what about the speed limit as well? At some point, someone decided that the speed limit was going to be 30 miles an hour. And I'm sure at the time you would have had a debate between some people who thought it should have been 20 and some people who thought it should have been 40. And only time will tell whether the actual decision is reasonable, i.e. next season, or whether the people who said this season are right, or whether, whether it should be even next season, to, hone in on my analogy even more literally. But you see what I mean. What I did find interesting and slightly ironic is essentially what we're debating here is an amount of money going into one club's coffers that's okay in terms of FFP spending that other clubs don't have. That sounds exactly like we're describing a parachute payment, doesn't it? Which are totally legal and given by the Premier League, but let's not start on that. So, look, let me just conclude by saying to the person that said to me, Ben, you put my reaction, but you didn't really react. Yeah, you were probably right. And I've reflected on that comment and I've done this video. So hopefully I've not been on the fence. But I will say we are debating something that's not black and white. So we need to kind of open our minds up to the fact that other people will have different opinions to us. And more importantly, that's okay. Because I think people get very emotional when somebody disagrees with them. And look, we wouldn't be able to debate it if it was black and white. It'd be black and white. The ball crossed the line or the ball didn't cross the line. Wednesday comes the day after Tuesday or it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? This is not black and white. So I think we can have a sensible debate. What I would urge people to do is just put your reasoning. If you want, and really it's coming down to two things. This season, 12 points off, or next season, 12 points off. If you think it should be this season, give your reasoning. If you think it should be next season, give your reasoning. Again, if your reasoning is, I don't like Sheffield Wednesday, I want to see them get relegated, then, hopefully the subscribers of this channel are a little bit above that. Although we did get some of that type of point scoring and arguing, let's just say. And again, to the person that called me a what? A barrack room lawyer. As I said earlier, get in the bin. You don't get to tell me what I am or am not qualified to talk about. I saw a brilliant seminar with Bryan Cranston, who played Walter White, and he made this point absolutely beautiful to this idiot calling me a barrack room lawyer. Sorry, I shouldn't have called him an idiot there. That was unfair. I take that back. But Bryan Cranston's point was that one of the funniest lines he ever said on Saturday Night Live was given to him by the guy changing the lights in the set. So it wasn't a comedy writer, it wasn't an actor, but the person with the best idea, people listen to it. And I stand by that philosophy in my life. Listen to someone's ideology, not their status. Yeah. Just because someone's a qualified lawyer, they could have a bad idea. Just because someone's a bloke on the internet talking about football, they could have a good idea. Let's not shut down debate with comments like, we don't need barrack room lawyers. So that would be my little soapbox about that. And with that in mind, I would encourage you to get in the comments here. We'll get debating on this. And I hope I've been consistent in saying this is not black or white. And please, it is not unreasonable for either argument. It's not unreasonable to say this season. It's not unreasonable to say next season. Just give some reasoning and be civil about it. So look, that is my reaction to your comments on the Sheffield Wednesday 12-point deduction. Hopefully it's made some sense. Hopefully I didn't sit on the fence, and hopefully I satiated the needs of the commenters who thought that I hadn't said enough. And as I've revealed in this video, I think he was probably right that I could have said more, and I have done now. And I hope this type of video was interesting and not a long monologue from me that's now gone coming up 27 minutes. But as ever, I've talked about free speech, and I've talked about let people judge people on their ideologies, not on their status. So you get involved in the comments right now, because I'm encouraging your free speech, and I'm interested in hearing your ideologies on the Sheffield Wednesday case, which got very emotional very quickly over here on the channel. Speaking of the channel, let's just bung this up. Support via Super Chat or by subscribing on Patreon. That's a financial help for me trying to do this part-time, or God, even full-time. That would be wonderful. If you don't feel that you want to, or you're not in a position to support financially, hit the thumbs up button, get in the comments, all of that helps, and subscribe. It says there 10,000, but it's going to say on the bottom there, thank you for helping us reach over 10,800 subscribers. We're actually pushing 11,000 subscribers now, and all of that will help in my quest to hopefully make this a viable pursuit here on YouTube. Right, enough said. Hopefully, I've raised lots of ideas, and I've reacted to your comments, and I've reacted positively to the person saying that I just gave the facts and I should maybe give more of an opinion. And hopefully, I've debunked that horrible barrack room lawyer thing, which is just designed to shut down debate, which is not having that. It's like we've got a problem. Shall we not talk about it and try and shut people down, or shall we talk about it and try and get to a consensus or learn something? And none of us are immune from reading somebody else's comment and thinking, oh, that's smart, that's well put. Anyway, I've gone a bit onto moral philosophy here and not football, so I should probably better wrap up. But I'm interested again to hear your comments on this, and hopefully I've framed mine in a bit more of an articulate and a bit more of a opinionated, rather than just sitting behind all the facts way. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know if you want to see this type of video again in the future. Over and out.